What do you think, Will?
I've got a story, if you don't mind me going into it, that kind of covers a lot of this. And it's a real story, but it's got moments of the absurd where you just want to slap your forehead. So I can go into it if you
Yeah,
want.
let's do it.
This is back in late 2011 down in southwest Afghanistan, kind of where Helmand and Nimroz provinces meet along the Ring Road. It's working with the Marine RCT as a human terrain member. So the way the Marine regiments were divided was one Marine regiment had Northern Helmand and Nimroz, and the other Marine regiment had Southern Helmand. At that time, Marja was kicking off, and the Southern Marine regiment was just loving life, getting to blow things up, getting to kill people. And the Northern Marine regiment, who I was supporting, was frustrated. So every day in a targeting meeting, the guys in the South would be putting up 15, 20 guys and getting approved to, do whatever good things they wanted to do to them. And the guys in the North would put up one guy and say, we don't know much about him. And their targeting officer was just getting increasingly frustrated as his deployment went on. Like, he was 3 or 4 months in and hadn't dropped a single JDAM. So like, he would walk around being like, I got to drop a JDAM. I don't care who I drop it on. I got to drop one. And so they started to recognize a theme, which, John, I'm sure you've experienced this. Pete, I know you've experienced, where whenever insurgent attacks would happen, cell phone towers would cut off, and all of a sudden communications would just not be working. The two shop did its thing, and they realized that there was this guy, I like to call him Aga John when I use this scenario, or this vignette in classes that I teach, because Aga John doesn't mean anything. It's like Mr. Man. But this guy owned the property that the two major cell towers within this this Afghan urban area. So not really an urban area, but Afghan urban area. So they said he is the link between the towers and the insurgents. He needs to go. He's got to be high up. So they prepped a targeting package and got ready to send it up. And as the lowly human terrain guy, I said, hold on, guys, let me at least, do my thing, because if this guy is a property owner out here, you never know what's going to go on. He may be somebody important. I had a good relationship with 3, and he was like, all right, you got a little bit of time, go do your thing. So I went out and started interviewing people in the local bazaar, started talking to members of the local government, and actually sat down and talked to Aga John himself. And I can tell you that my interpreter and I both thought he was the biggest dick in the world. We hated him. But just because we didn't like his attitude and anything like that didn't mean he needed to die. We probably talked to 20 or 30 people in the bazaar before we actually talked to him. And then we went back out into the bazaar and got a couple of patrols and just talked to as many people as we could just to see what they would say. And we found out that Aga John owned an ice factory. And so this was the only ice factory within the town. And then talking to Aga John, we found out that he was the primary ice provider to the local populace, which, okay, so cool, you provide ice. We might piss people off if we schwack you and they can't get ice, mainly because we're right next to the Dashti Margo desert, the desert of death. But then we find out he also has the ISAF contract for the local base. So we're going to be schwacking the guy who has the ISAF contract to provide ice to Americans. So now there's starting to be a little bit of a gray area, because we are implying that, hey, sign a contract with Americans, we'll kill you. So it starts to get fuzzy. Then we find out he owns a construction company, and he's privately funded all sorts of projects within the urban area. So he's done bizarre improvements. He's redone the sewer system in the bazaar, so that open ditch where all the garbage gets brushed and then someone comes by and picks up all the garbage. He completely redid those out of his own pocket. And then he funded the garbage removal, because he realized, hey, we've got this great system, but nobody's removing it, so I'm going to do that. So now we're starting to realize that this guy's a little bit more important than we were giving him credit for. And it gets so much worse. So afterwards, we talk to people on the district shura council. We actually see him leaving the district shura council, and we're like, wait, what is this guy doing here? So we start talking to people, and they say, oh, he's trying to join the district shura council. And we're like, oh, so this guy that we're pretty sure is the enemy and we're about to kill is trying to join the district shura council. Who does he say he represents? Why does he want to be part of the district shura council? Talk to him again and talk to more people and find out that he's not from the local area. He's a transplant from central Afghanistan, and he uses his power and influence to connect other internally displaced peoples to the local government. So right there, that sends off a red flag in my mind. So I go back out, I convince the unit to give me another patrol in Bazaar, and I start asking people, where can I find internally displaced people? Who can I talk to? And I find some, and I start saying, how do you connect to the local government? And some of them just say they could care less about connecting. They realize they're on tough times. They don't want to make it any tougher. But others say, oh, we go to Aga John, and he represents us. He represents our needs and our concerns to the local government. And so I go back to the district shura council, and I start asking, what would you estimate your the IDP population is in this region, in this district? And they say it's like 15 to 20% of the entire population. So now we find out that this one guy is the local unofficial representative of roughly 15 to 20% of the population that we were going to kill. So I get all this information, and I go back and I brief the 3 and the 2 at the regiment, and they'd say, okay, we better not kill him. Let's pull off, and they don't do it. And then like a week later, we find out that he has become an official member of Jaroa, and he's been approved by Kabul and all that. So we were inches away from killing a Jaroa official because we drew a line between towers and insurgents without trying to understand anything else.
Let me ask you this real quick question. And you threw a lot of things out there. So just for the listeners, Jaroa is the government of Afghanistan, and shuras are meetings, are councils. You don't have to worry too much about that. Also, he talked about just basically you're talking about someone who's working outside the traditional system, but working on his way in. For you to go find that stuff out, what level of degree of experience do you need to do that? Like that task, that's not an infantryman's task. That sounds pretty specialized. How many people that you've come across doing the kind of work that we do could handle that specific kind of work? To have the influence with the command, to be able to get the operations and the intel people and the commander to all listen and not kill this guy. How challenging is that job?
I would say it's a 1 in a million task, and the only reason I was able to even throw a flag in the air and say, "Hold up, let's not kill this guy right away," is because I had a previous relationship with the 3 where I had been his 2 chief in uniform prior to me being within the human training system. So he had an already built trust with me. But for an outsider to do it, very unlikely. It would take a lot of time and probably take a unit's entire rotation to build that trust up. And for an insider, it would take a unique personality within the military who's a nonconformist, who is willing to think outside of the box to say, hey, everybody, I know we're hammers, but let's not hit this nail quite yet. And I know I'm a pessimist, but I think it would be unusual for the military, unless it changes what it's currently doing for training and education and development, to develop someone who is surrounded by hammers but is unwilling to be a hammer the first chance he gets.